Hello, I'm Kats, and welcome to today's video. So this is going to be part 2 of the 400th video created celebration. If you haven't seen part 1 that was posted yesterday, at least at the time of this video being posted, and I tackled the question of why I still enjoy playing Raid in 2025. And so for this one, we're going to be tackling the topic of why I still in 2025 do every single fusion, good, bad, and the ugly. For those of you who missed the preamble in part 1, essentially I put up a poll on my community tab page asking you guys, my lovely viewers, what topic you guys would like me to cover for the 400th video celebration, and two topics were very close, the two topics we were discussing between part 1 and part 2, and so I decided to do them both, so episode 400 and episode 401. So let's dive into the topic for this video. Why on earth do I do every single fusion? Yes, all of them, even the most skippable ones. And funnily enough, I did make a video on this exact topic almost 2 years ago, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how my views have changed over time. I did not go back and watch that video, but I have a feeling that a lot of the justifications are going to be fairly similar, so let's dive right into it. The number one reason why I do every single fusion is because I can. And I know that sounds very conceited, but that's really the best way to articulate my particular playstyle and my viewpoint on fusions and just how I play the game overall. It's no secret that I have a significant amount of shards, right? So I do have a lot of resources in terms of shards, in terms of silver, in terms of gems, in terms of energy stores. And so I have the resources I need to do fusion. So it's really up to me to decide whether or not I want to do them. And I typically choose to do them. And there's definitely there's a couple of big reasons that are kind of underneath the because I can mantra. And the biggest one is I'd rather have the champions and not need them than need them and not have them. It is definitely very easy to look at a fusion and say, I don't need them right now, or they're useless to me right now, and I don't expect them to be useful in the future. And you could be totally right. They could be trash and they could never ever see any place or play in the game on your account. Could be true. Or some new content that you could not even have imagined could come out in the next month that they were particularly suited for, and then you don't have the champion and you might never pull them, especially if you're a free-to-play player like myself. And so you could say that I definitely err on the side of caution, where just in case I happen to need that champion in the future, they are available at my disposal. I don't have to use them, I don't have to build them, I don't have to book them until I need them, but they're just there just in case some need comes about in the future, like the Cursed City, Faction Wars Hard Mode, Doom Tower, and all these things that initially did not exist when I began to do every single fusion, but have since come into the game and kind of reinforced the idea that it's beneficial for me personally to do every single fusion. The other reason where this comes into play is that most of the time, the only time I farm the dungeons for gear is during fusions, when it's kind of required at that point. Otherwise, I'd be developing my account in other ways. I could be working on Minotaur to get some masteries, although at the current state of things, I'm actually kind of caught up on my primary backlog. And so I would just be running Sand Devil and or the Phantom Shogun's Grove to farm the dust, the extract, and whatnot, and be working on ascending and reworking the ascension on my gear. And this is most definitely an aspect of me being in the end game where that is my highest priority. I don't really have to develop that many champions anymore. And when I choose to develop champion, it is usually just for one specific situation or some small upgrade, or beating one stage in the Cursed City or one stage in Faction Wars and stuff like that. And so just with where my account is at the moment, if I don't need to be farming the dungeons, I have other things to do. And so the fusions kind of air quotes force me to farm the dungeons because I need to do them to get the points, which helps me continue to get gear over time. And of course, obviously, once again, being in the end game, a lot of the gear I get is not going to be used. It's going to be sold for silver, so I don't really get that many good pieces. But on the flip side, if I never farm the dungeons, one, I couldn't do any fusions, and two, I just wouldn't. You can't get gear if you don't farm the dungeons. So obviously, it's unlikely that you're going to get, a 6-star legendary, mythical, amazing piece, but you also definitely can't get it if you don't farm the gear. So yeah, reason number one is because I can, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that, as I kind of dove into. Reason number two is that, believe it or not, I'm of the opinion that most of the fusions have some use in the game. It might be niche, but nonetheless, they're going to be useful. And the best way I can illustrate this is just by coming into the champion collection here. We'll filter on legendaries just to make it a bit easier. But in terms of how I like to organize my account, these are the champions that I consider core, ones that are just outside the vaults in the champion collection tab. And these are the champions that I use on an extremely regular basis. That could be daily for like arena teams, Doom Tower farming, dungeon farming, whatever whatever else is going on, all the way up to champions I use once a week. So that includes my Hydra teams and whatnot. Champions I put in the vault are ones that are that I consider to be more perennial usage. So Doom Tower secret rooms, 1 or 2 Cursed City stages, faction wars and stuff like that, where they come up, every 2 weeks, every month or so. I do use them once and then they go back in the vault, or they stay in the vault the whole time. But they do one thing once a month and then they go back in. For those types of things, I don't really worry about organizing them outside of the vault. So that is just how I organize it. But the main point here is to say that you'll see that on my core teams, meaning that I use them at least once a week, you'll see a lot of previous Fusion champions. Now, of course, there's also going to be some free champions mixed in here, and of course, tons of ones that I've pulled. But you might be surprised just how many of these are just actual Fusion champions from the past. So as an example, we've got Aostrid, Dreamsong, Hydra champion, use her there. We have 2 arena, gods, Armons, and Lord Entertainer Fabian. We've got Pythion here. I use him in PvE. Lonathero, one of the best ally attackers on my account at the moment. I still use him for hard mode Fire Knight. Gaius the Gleeful, Arena Bomber, super useful. Herndig, one of my favorite AoE, just nukers in general, super fun for that purpose. Underpriest Brogni, he's kind of fallen a little bit out of the meta, but when he came out, he was like the Demon Lord Clan Boss god for like traditional old school teams. White Queen and Korra, definitely still underrated, but PvP is kind of her niche. Vlad the Nightborn, definitely a fusion from a long time ago, but still one of my second favorite kind of AoE plug and play DPS. Nishak Vermilord, another bomb champion for the arena. Walking Tomb Drang, great for the irresistible burn for Spider, normal Spider, and Frost Spider, and the list goes on. So there's a handful of fusions. It's not every single one. There's a lot of freebies in here as well, a lot of pulls. But the point is, there's a decent amount of Fusion champions that are on my core teams. And so that just goes to show that, a lot of them are probably going to be useful. And, it's somewhat easy, in my opinion, to kind of tell the good ones from the okay ones, from the meh ones. But regardless, I just opt to collect them all because there might be a change one day where they become useful, or a new piece of content where they might become useful. The third reason is the advent of Faction Guardian. So believe it or not, that even though I'm 4 years into the game, I literally just achieved my first faction 10 out of 10 like a month ago, within the past month. So plenty of factions are very, very low, 2 out of 10. I still have a couple that are 0 out of 10, meaning that I have 0 duplicates at all in legendary rarity. So I have a lot of work to do in terms of building out my legendary Faction Guardians to get them all to 10 out of 10. So that is still definitely a goal of mine. And so while Fusion Champions aren't necessarily ones that you are going to be pulling in the future, just having them on your account allows for the fact that you might pull them in the future, and then they can become a Faction Guardian. And an excellent example of this, or 2 examples of this, are actually in the High Elves. One more positive, one more negative example. So we have the Incarnate, arguably the worst fusion of 2024, and I definitely said that at the time, that she is a terrible champion. She probably definitely needs a buff, but I knew that she wasn't going to be used at all on my account. But despite that, I got a copy of her just because I could, had the resources to do so. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, I happened to get a duplicate of her sometime this year, I think. And so boom, 8 out of 10 on High Elves, the Faction Guardian, even though I'll never use her, at least the way she is right now. But nonetheless, she's helping me get towards the 10 speed for Arbiter, for example, which is very, very desirable. So she's helping me in that regard, even though she's going to be useless for any application, direct application on my account. But the point here being that if I had skipped the fusion, worked on something else, then I would have still pulled this copy later on. And then, well, I'd be kind of kicking myself a little bit because I wouldn't have the duplicate here to put her in as a Faction Guardian. I would just have the one copy. She'd be in the vault and she would never see the light of day. But at least in this way, she is somewhat useful. Then on the flip side, Strategos Islin, I personally didn't have a use for him, but I know for a lot of people, he helped them progress in Hydra back when that was a little bit more of a focus for people. But this is an example of a champion who was good. He had good merits, but I just happened to not need him on my account. Therefore, for me, I could have skipped him, even though a lot of people thought of him as a really, really good champion, depending on their needs for progression in terms of Hydra. But for me, I personally did not need him. But nonetheless, I went for the fusion. Eventually, I pulled a duplicate, and thus I had, 6 out of 10 here in terms of the Faction Guardian. So you get the point. Even if I hadn't have done both of these fusions because I personally didn't need them, I'd still be down at 4 out of 10 for High Elves and far, far away from the 10 out of 10 speed and Arbiter. So for me, in my state of things, it's definitely helpful just to bank as many legendaries as possible, because maybe I'll pull them in the future, maybe I won't, but if I do pull a duplicate in the future, then they can help me towards getting 10 out of 10 across all of the factions. or even beyond that, they could help free up slots for champions who I want to empower down the road, because thus far I have not empowered a single legendary because I'm waiting until I get 10 out of 10 on the faction that those champions are in. It's the ones who I would even consider empowering, and so it kind of helps the long-term progression of my account. Reason number 4 is the potential for points in future champion chases or CVCs. So if we hop over into the portal, we can take a look at the backlog of champions, the portal of the unsummoned, as I like to call them, where I have a handful of champions that are previous fusions that have no play or have no purpose on my account, aside from potentially giving me points in a future champion chase as needed. So funnily enough, there are old fusions that can help me do new fusions depending on how I want to play it. And as some of you may know, every so often I do like a shardless champion chase in order to get myself points or champions or whatever fragments towards a fusion. And so all of these start to come into play alongside other sources of points. But sometimes I just summon these guys even if I don't have a purpose for them. I just summon them to get the points, because in a champion chase, just a non-void legendary is worth 500 points. So we have like Zenogre Blade Master, we have Ugur the Worm Eater, Supreme Elhain. She's void affinity, which means she would give me 650 points. We have a lot of Doom Tower champions, but Packmaster Shayak is still here, Brugard Jerobum, Esme the Dancer. So there's a handful of them that I have no intention of ever using, but if I do need to get points in a champion chase and I'm out of shards, which is unlikely if you know me, but nonetheless, the opportunity is there, or the option is there to use them as such. And then number 5, which you might find interesting or a little bit different, is that honestly, I also like proving that it's possible to do that, because I do feel, I see it in comment sections on other content creators' videos, that people have the general vibe that, fusions are hard to do them all as a free-to-play, especially, it's just not possible. You can never get the resources to do it because they're super expensive. They keep increasing the milestones, and it's just, there's no way to sustain getting them. And, I kind of like to disprove that a little bit as much as I can. Obviously, once again, I am in the end game, so there is a little bit of a caveat there as far as, you're not going to be able to do every single fusion when you're 2 months in. It's probably going to take you a few months to kind of find your rhythm, find your flow in order to be able to pull that off. But nonetheless, I want to be like living, breathing proof, content proof that it is possible to do every single fusion being free to play. I'm not saying that fusions are easy to do per se. They definitely require a lot of resources, a lot of planning, a lot of time and or energy and or money, depending on how you want to play it. But I do fully acknowledge that. But nonetheless, living, breathing proof that it can be possible to do every single fusion if you so choose, if you are meticulous with your resources, I should mention as well. So there you have it. Those are my 5 primary reasons for still doing every single fusion here in 2025. And I want to give an honorable mention, we'll call it number 6, to champion buff potential. So champions that are really, really bad on paper, like the Incarnate, for example, I hope that they'll get a buff in the future. I don't just necessarily, advocate and say you should do a fusion in case they get buffed, because the odds of that are fairly slim. There are tons of champions in the game, but nonetheless, that is something that I've kind of considered more so in the back of my mind. But if you guys will indulge me for a second, I do want to shamelessly plug myself. Link in the description box down below, but I do have a spreadsheet where I talk about fusions, and I have a fusion plan here. It's all of the calendars and events and milestones for all of the fusions dating back through Pythion, which is, I believe, was back in 2023, all the way through Ishiyama, and starting to build the data set for the newest fusion. We'll see when that goes live next Thursday. But if you want to check it out, it will be again in the link in the description box down below. It is free to use. You can make a copy of this for yourself, or you can just follow along with the live spreadsheet that I'll be updating. But essentially, this is a nice static catalog of what the fusion entailed, all the milestones, and then in parentheses, I like to go in and put the resource that I actually spent where applicable. So like, for example, for Ishiyama, for the Summon Rush, I spent 6 Sacreds and 500 Mystery Shards. I spent 17 million silver on this artifact enhancement, 26 million on this one. I did a shardless champion chase, as I hinted at earlier, for these champion chase, so I just used a bunch of fragments, even though it was 2x voids, and so on and so forth. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below, what is your approach to fusions? Do you do all of them? Do you just do the good ones? Do you do the few as possible? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit the like button down below. Really does help out the channel. And feel free to hit the subscribe button down below as well if you're enjoying the content overall on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Here's to the next 100 videos and another special topic. Thanks for watching and have a good one.